Hello and welcome to another episode of Kajabi in 5 minutes. I'm JD, your host, and it's always great to be here talking to you guys. So last week, I said I was going to get into some design ideas and ways to use all of these section organizational kind of settings that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, but I only got to one, and then my time was up. And so I'm going to give you some more. Hopefully I'll get through a few today. I'll be a little bit less specific in the details. And anyways, I'm just going to jump right into it. So something that can look really cool on a site is when you've got a full framed in a section on your webpage. When you have a full framed color or image on one side, and then it's divided in the middle of the screen, and on the other side you've got either your text, or if your text is on the colored background, then you have your image. And it's kind of like a half and half screen. And Kajabi doesn't have a template like this in their sections, so you have to make it. And if you aren't aware of, things like the border radius or flush or section full width, then this look, as simple as it is impossible to make because, you've always got boundaries and white space. And this section looks really good because there's no white space. And so the way that you do it is these are the things that you have to do. You have to go into your section settings in the desktop layout, and you have to go full width. And right away, that is going to stretch all your content out to the edges and get rid of the margins that are on the edges. So that's important. The next thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that your content blocks that you're using, if you're using an image block for one of the sides, the image has to be 6 in its blue width boxes so that it takes up exactly half the page. And you have to go into its settings, I think in border or background. Can't remember which one it is, but in the settings where I think background, where you adjust the radius. By default, it's 4 on the corners, the corner radius, and that rounds them. You have to shrink that to 0 so that it's, you get the nice sharp edges. And you have to go into desktop layout and make flush. And what that does is it takes the image and whatever content you're doing this to and stretches it to the boundaries of the box. It gets rid of some margin spacing inside the box. And so section full width, flush, and corner radius 0 is key for this. Also making your content width in the blue boxes to 6. That's going to give you one side and the other side. And then if you're doing a color and an image, you just set your section background to whatever color you want. You create a text box for your text that's going over the colored side. You make sure that it is also, you may need to replicate the same flush and borders and whatnot as your image, but probably will work without it. And then in your section settings, you need to make sure that the top section padding, that's what it's called on the top, and the bottom are set to 0. And that will shrink your section down to just the size of your image and give you that nice, crisp image in color look or image in white with colored text. That would be pretty cool. So that's how you do that. Some other things that are kind of neat is when you have an image and you've got like an overlay or over top of a color. Kind of like a frame, except it doesn't go all the way around. It's just offset a little bit. Or maybe it's like a circle image with a drop. It's not a drop shadow, but the same type of effect with a solid color. Those types of things that are common that you see. Or an image with like a white border around it and then an outline, like a frame. Some of the image type decorations that you see on websites, some of that you can do in Kajabi, some of it you can't. And so, first of all, if you use something like Canva and you are proficient with it, it's easiest to put your image into Canva, create that layered look that you're looking for, export it as a PNG so you get your transparent settings, and then put that image into Kajabi. That's going to be the easiest. But there are some things that you can do in Kajabi with this. And so it uses the background. So if we're using an image box or a text box, an image box, it's going to be the best. What you're going to want to do is work with your inside spacing, your border, and outline. that's what it is. So if you want that look of like an outline, but not touching the image, then you just make sure your inside spacing is increased to whatever you need to. And then your border will be framing white, which is then where your image is. And you might need to set your background to white in order for that effect to really look the best. But that's how you can do that. And if you wanted an offset kind of overlay, you can do your inside spacing, not all the way around, but just on some sides. And then the background of your image, the background color, which is something you don't usually see on an image block because the image fills the whole content block. When you push in on some sides, your image shrinks on those sides, and then you see a border of the background color on those sides. It's not offset, which is something you would have to do in a photo editor like Canva, but it does create that. And so keeping in mind your inside spacing on all the directions, your background color, and your border, those will give you on an image block the ability to put just a little bit of uniqueness to the way the image is on the page. To get the customization that you're probably going to want, you are going to need to create your image in Canva with that layered effect, export it as a PNG, and bring that into Kajabi. So those are some more tips or ways that you can work with what Kajabi gives you to make some cool things. That's what I've got for you today. And tune in next week for some more Kajabi tidbits, and I hope that you're doing great.